which will be pretty awesome. Queen Jack, raise it up. We go ahead and we get re-raised here. And you know, if I didn't believe him, I might re-raise this spot. But I think it's an okay spot to just go ahead and flat call for a few reasons. If your opponent checks back the turn, you can bluff the river. The implied odds are there, so that I'm making a bit of a profit if I hit a 10. And if I hit a 10, usually if they raise and they have like a half or a short stack like that, quite often they're just going with their hand. So if he has king 10 or something like that, chances are he's just stacking off. Even if he has like king 3 suited, these guys overplay these combos a lot of the time. So I think that most of you are going to fold here, and I think that's totally fine. But I think that if you feel that you have good implied odds, this is a rainbow board, I wouldn't call here with a draw that was dominated, for instance. So if you complete your draw and your draw is, let's say, a straight, and then it makes you the second best straight, or the third best straight, or the fifth best straight, and then you have a fucking guy who's got flushes in his range and nut straights in his range, not a spot where like ace king isn't around or whatever, then you have a spot where when you hit your draw, you run the risk of having reverse implied odds. And even if you don't have reverse implied odds to the point where it's minus EV, it's still going to reduce the value of your hand over those samples a lot. So I would rather have a spot where my hand, when I hit it, is the nuts. And here, if I hit a 10, not only do I make the nuts, but it might give him a flush draw, and it might give him a 2 pair. It might have king 10, you know what I mean? You might have king 10. So, yeah, if he's not going to stack off before, he might. So you're going to look for spots to peel where you have really good implied odds, where you think your opponent, if you hit, is likely to either make a second best hand that's really strong that they won't be able to get away from, like when they make a flush and you make a boat. That's awesome for you. The perfect cards that come up, you know, 5-6% of the time. That happens over time, and it's worth a stack a lot of the time. So just finding scenarios where you have a number of things going for you. One, you could make the best hand, and you have good implied odds to do so. You know, when you hit, you get paid off a lot. Two, your opponent could take a passive line or decide to give up. Those are two important things for when you're peeling in spots like this. So anytime my opponent checks back turn and I bet river and he folds, it's gravy. I'm doing this with enough implied odds to just call and hit my 10 and then stack him for the rest of the money that he's got. And that, if I stack him the majority of the time, which I perceive that I will, that it's going to be dope for us. But anything is extra value if he ever checks back and folds river. And I will bluff river if he checks back. Here he just pots it and we're done. We have 3-8, so we'll check.